Hello, this is Pixie doing another video. This is quite interesting actually. So today I had a gentleman, and I won't say name, protect his identity, but he wanted to let me know something privately. I went, okay, he's a client. So, okay, right. And he says there's two chaps who basically stay in this property. He said 2 people in the property, and I thought, okay. And one of them's called Harry. He originally called me Harry when I come in, which makes me wonder if he considers me an amalgamation of this entity as well, or a projection of that entity onto me, like a psychic attachment. Because the conscious area of our mind is really the unexplored part of it. It's the bit it is the glue of reality that we cannot measure, because things exist and they follow a set kind of program and structure, and they react in a particular ways because there's this conscious construct around them. Otherwise things would just collapse or dissipate. I mean, in time things do this transition, where things like elements that just transfer back into a different element and different states and so on, so it's very much like a program. And there's things that look like bots, or there's like these simulation of things that have a drone-like connection, so like hive mind type stuff, like a swarm of bees and stuff like that. They're all sort of programmed to do certain things a certain way, but seem to be a part of more of a collective consciousness. And then there's us, where we have a collective consciousness, but we're actually designed to try to be a bit more individualistic than collective. But however, we do seem to feed off that collective consciousness. We seem to be less aware of it, apart from as a method of socialising, group working. It may be that something that females are more aware of than males. Males try to be as much resourceful as possible, really. Yes, this chap says, hey, he's basically told me these 2 people exist. They've got different characters. One of them's staying over. This other guy thinks he's the landlord or something. And strangely, he said we own the place, but this guy pretends he thinks he owns the place. So these 2 entities may exist as on a permanent basis. It's a little different from a drug hallucination, because while you might be touched by the experience, or it may be reoccurring, or it's still living on inside you, it's not necessarily impacting yourself on your consciousness. So for this gentleman, because of brain chemistry and so on, at some level he might be constantly tripping and being able to visualise something that in appearance to us is not there. It may have some form of existence. He may have brought it into existence like a tulpa. He's projected his consciousness into the world, and so he's created something that after a while becomes like AI, like a bot, and then it evolves independently. And maybe that's how life evolves as well in consciousness, is that you start off with something quite what might seem meaningless, and then you build up a basic operation platform for existing, and then when you're at the level you can progress into more advanced life forms than you do. So you may be like a independent computer in that sense, and each of us are driving our machines, our bodies, slightly differently, and we're also encoding it with our own consciousness. This is why children, you can tell who the parents are, but you might also see something else in them as well. So it's all very fascinating stuff. But no, I haven't really dealt with people kicking out their hallucinations. I'm going to have to. I think that's probably the best way to work with that type of form of mental health, because it falls into the remit of psychosis, but there's also elements of a spiritual element there, because I think we can't always put things exactly into boxes. It's like somebody has a form of psychosis but is able to tell you things that you didn't know, and then you fact check them and you find out they're true, and you know that the person didn't have access to the information, and you start saying, well, it may be a little bit more to this than just a random intuition. It's worth exploring it. I mean, it's like any good science. You shouldn't say because you've tested the model once, you've got the answer to it, that's it. It may be an ongoing trial and error And sometimes people ignore it. They say, well, there's a margin of error, so therefore, if you repeat this process, then that was just a fluke or something. But you can't really rule it off, because every set test represents that fractional moment in time that could have been influenced by a lot of other factors going on. There's stuff in the quantum physics I was saying about how people's own consciousness could influence the experiment, and then I realised, well, yes, because why am I separate from what's going on? It's a bit like I read something about someone's a neuroscientist and this guru having this discussion, and he said about science has got us to the moon and stuff. I was thinking, well, actually, I just got to look at the moon and focus on it, and I'm already there, because the light from the moon, the energy frequencies, everything is coming down, and I'm connecting to my consciousness to it. Because even if you were on the moon, it's still a projection of your perception, what you're seeing. You could induce someone to think they're on the moon if you put some sort of, with the right sort of training. I mean, you put someone under some sort of form of hypnosis, put a VR headset on them, and then maybe the right kind of drug, and you can simulate you're on the moon, and then they'll just be like, well, their mind would be a bit fragmented, but you can say, yeah, you were part of an operation, and then after a while, a secret a space operation, after a while it becomes fact, because there's in your memory, it's just bits of fragments of factual experiences to you that are put together, that string together, and then it's sort of wired together with things like your logic part of your mind, your emotional part, and there's other things like your instincts, your intuitions, other things like known facts, and also things that result in your fight or flight and stuff like that. So like gut instinct to a certain level, which is not like emotional like I like it. It's like, this makes me feel uncomfortable, or there's something not quite right about this, or this happened when I did this. So it's kind of a sensory that may be outside of the experience, like a phobic response to some degree. So there's a lot more there, and it'd be interesting to play around with it. It's very difficult, because I had to say to the wife, his wife suffers from a bit of her own confusion. I just had to say, well, he thinks there's some other people here, so, if we're talking a different way, that's why. And then I turned around and said, right, I'm locking up now, right, okay, you can come out now. And I think the problem with that is that if someone can see something that you can't, and then you try to interact with that, and it has no effect, or your reactions don't fit into their thing, they'll be thinking, well, that guy's still in the property, who are you talking to? I'm talking to the guy that you thought you were talking to. No, he's in the corner. You're talking to the kitchen, But it was very strange. He said that one of them had a face like a wall. Well, that's because he probably is. But then I've got to wonder, because sometimes I have these kind of spiritual experiences, and I try to logically look at them, and I want to perceive more into them, because they don't dull my senses. They kind of heighten my intelligence, by my creative thinking. And I know this body is this kind of, it's got its set parameters, but your consciousness isn't necessarily restricted in the same way. So you can dip in a little bit further into things. You can construct things in your mind. But it'd be interesting to know what these entities are, and they're part of something else, part of him as well, attachments. Do they represent these guides and stuff? I mean, I was talking to somebody else, and they were telling me about how they had seen angels, or they had seen their parents, and he got worried about that. And I think he also saw his dad, and he knew exactly what he's wearing and everything. So the avatar turned up, and all the fine details were in there. It wasn't like it wasn't sketchy. It wasn't like I saw a shadow and it looked like a person. It was, this person was wearing these clothes. This person had this expression on their face. This person said this to me, said that to me. Gave me some information. So it's just that deeper realm of consciousness that we don't fully understand. And I think we all are open to having experiences of different sorts, and we might say to ourselves, well, we tend to favour the logical part of our thinking, which dulls our other sides, our other spiritual parts of our mind and other things. because we write it off. We say, well, if I can't see it and I can't feel it, therefore it doesn't exist. That's to assume that your senses are the truth. Senses are a representation of the truth at a certain spectrum. You know, you can only read so much, like how we kind of read language. If you don't have the necessary tools, the words don't mean anything to you. But if you're able to see deeper into the words, then the way it is changing on me. The big lorries there, big lorries. A few big lorries actually. There's a whole load there, and there's a kind of middle area with the psychosis where other conditions, like often people think schizophrenia is psychosis, but it's really just the structure to allow it to exist, and they're all very similar. Under the hood, there might be some fine differences. So it's really just having delusions and hallucinations of both the audio and the visual. It could be some other delusions. I mean, some people might have hallucinations of flavour, like I mentioned about you can project a taste. I could pretend I'm eating something, and it could be possible to make that taste in my mouth, and all that happens is that well, it does happen in us to a certain degree, because we might start salivating, and if that's the right word, I'm getting tired. Salivating. And so yeah, you get kind of saliva going, you're thinking about certain food, because there's an addiction connected to it as well. You don't have responses to things in your body unless you have a strong emotional attachment to it. In the same way that you've got a loved one and your heart starts beating really fast. You can't normally do that, but the addiction to the endorphins and the other chemicals that are going to be released, the oxytocin, is overwhelming. It's just being able to hack into all that. It'd be so good, but then once you hacked in, it might be irreversible. You don't want that. Like, I don't know. Say for instance you wanted to make yourself really smart and you wanted to become addicted to reading, and then you found a way to actually unlock your endorphins and your oxytocin, and then you ended up falling in love with reading things, and then you felt bad if you didn't read things, and then you found yourself reading bloody loads all the time. And then you had an issue where you could not read. Do you know, I've got some clients who've got compulsive reading sort of thing almost. They read a large amount of books, but I've never been able to get my mind in tune. I've got something that blocks me. I don't know what it is. I'll start reading bits. I mean, I can do it. I'm going to have to break through it's something to do with some neurological wiring. I'm going to have to somehow rewire that. And so I become more into the books. I find that I visually watch things and it sticks in my mind. A bit like I cheated, and what I did is I engaged the test before studying the subject, which sounds weird, but then it shows me what I don't know, and then my brain says, well, I don't know that, so I need to learn that. And so it prompts a learning chemistry in my brain, and then there's a chemical probably for learning, a hormone. I'll have to look into that. There might be certain foods that stimulates certain neurochemicals that can boost intellectual pursuits and stuff. You know, there might be some that reverse it, like if you sedate your brain, you may turn down again, you might be less neurologically interested. So things, I mean, like with the plants I've got, with like daturas and stuff like brugmansia and so on, I'll either become more accustomed to their chemicals by them being around me, or I might be able to wait so I can use them as a hack-in. If they become a problem, then I'll make observations on that. You know, if I say, for instance, I can't sleep or something, or I start having my own blooming hallucinations and someone's living inside my flat. Who knows? That's right. Or I create the entity in there and he starts living with me. But it's quite easy to do, to create something and then project it into the world. And I don't know how many other people have done these sorts of things without realising it. Like their invisible friend, or something experienced when they were younger. I mean, I had a relationship with a tree when I was a young lad. I just used to sit on its root system, and I used to chat to it and think. I used to meditate. I guess I used to daydream on it. So I had a very spiritual thing. But if I had all that knowledge as an adult, or if I met the right person, I could have gone so far from a child. If somebody said, "Oh, this kid's gifted. He can meditate, and he's only bloody 5." But what you get is people saying, "You've got an imagination, haven't you?" And they talk to you like you've got a fucking virus or something in your head. Yeah, if you've got certain other abilities, because they see money, that's all they do. That's why they disgust me, people that think they can just buy you, but you do a good deed for them and they think they can pay you off. They make me sick. Or people that offer to do that and then they change their mind. They're just like teasing you and playing weird games with you. You know, if somebody wants to give money, fine, but it doesn't actually. Once you've got enough to live on, and you've got most things in your life that you want, then you don't become so driven by money. I mean, people say, yeah, you can go on holiday, you can do this, but you can kind of do a little bit of that anyway. You can just get your head, learn about a place, meditate. So, I mean, it's not quite the same. Or you just do the thing that actually most enriches you. Another project I was going to look at was a prepper project. I wonder if I could set up a Facebook sort of like page or something. But I was thinking about. This chap's going down. I was thinking about there's places that are abandoned that'd be perfect for preppers. There's a place called Para-Mentis, and I wouldn't mind learning a bit more about that. But it's an active coal mine there, but it's also got a pyramid structure off the mountain. I think it hasn't really been explored. I think it is a effing pyramid or something. But I mean, obviously, I don't want people to sort of. I don't want sort of the secret government to shut it down, or because it might have no belief in it at all. It's, you know, but I guess at some levels, these pyramids exist all over the place. They're just not really used, or they might have some healing properties. It's just something unexplored. Anyway, this town's in between I think Norway and Russia, and in the past the Russians had this territory, they took over it, but now they've abandoned it, and so it doesn't really have any function because it was just a coal mine, but it was in a bit of a beauty spot, so it was quite nice. The only issue they do is that on occasions they get polar bears in the village now, so you have to watch out because it's quiet. So they like quiet areas. But I think you could probably domesticate a polar bear. If you domesticate like dogs, then it'd be a win-win situation. Maybe you could send it off to hunt. I mean, you could feed it things, and you could train to hunt with it. And then you know, or basically create a thing where you've got a relationship with some bears, and it's not a big problem. But they would become expectant if you start fishing and feeding them. You just think, oh, just go take more and more. Well, they might be fine. I mean, if you had one from a cub and you trained it, or what do they call them, pup, is it? It's a slightly different story because they have loyalty to the humans in the village, and if you just kept it fed, it'd be fine. Any other polar bear turns up, it's either going to mate with it or chase it off, you know, or whatever. It's going to have interaction, but it's not going to turn around and let everyone get savaged. So who knows, you know. Some odd activity on tonight. There's some appears to be some dealing, just like people hanging around at night on the corner of things, looking at their phones, but it just seems a bit fishy. Anyway, this is picking something up, that's what just saying, bye.